Assalamu alaikum, shalom, yali madat, and good morning. My name is Nabila Hussein, and I am pleased to welcome you to today's event, the celebration of Eid al-Adha. We will begin today's festivities with a recitation of the Holy Quran, followed by the English translation. May I call to the podium Brother Aga Akhbari and Sister Nabila Jafar from the Azahara Center.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ بوأنا لإبراهيم مكان البيت ألا تشرك بي شيئا وطهر بيتي للطائفين والقائمين والركع السجود.
I begin in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. When we settled for Abraham the site of the house, saying, "Do not ascribe any partners to me, and purify my house for those who circle around it, and those who stand in it for prayer, and those who bow and prostrate themselves."
وأذن في الناس بالحج يأتوك رجالا وعلى كل ضامر يأتين من كل فج عميق.
And proclaim the Hajj to all the people. They will come to you on foot and on lean camels, coming from distant places.
ليشهدوا منافع لهم ويذكروا اسم الله في أيام معلومات على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فكلوا منها وأطعموا البائس الفقير.
may witness the benefits for them and mention Allah's name, God's name, during the known days over the livestock He has provided them. So eat thereof and feed the destitute and the needy.
الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
In the name of Allah, the All-Beneficent, the All-Merciful. We have indeed given you abundance. So pray to your Lord and the sacrificial camel. It is indeed your enemy who is without posterity. Indeed, it will close in upon them in outstretched columns. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها
Al-Shams. In the name of Allah, the All-Beneficent, the All-Merciful, by the sun and her forenoon splendor, by the moon when he follows her, by the day when it reveals her, by the night when it covers her, by the heaven and him who built it, by the earth and him who spread it.
والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
By the earth and him who spread it, by the soul and him who fashioned it, and inspired it with discernment between its virtues and vices. One who purifies it is felicitous. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
Thank you for that very captivating recitation and very eloquent translation. I would now like to call upon Suraya Lalani, a member of the Ismaili Muslim community, and ask that we all rise for the singing of the national anthem. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you for that beautiful recitation. I would now like to call upon Mr. Kennedy Stewart, Mayor of the City of Vancouver, for his welcome remarks.
I get to wrestle with the microphone now. Well, it's my great pleasure to be here today to commemorate Eid al-Adha. On behalf of Vancouver City Council, I'd like to begin by wishing you all Eid Mubarak. I'd like to begin also by acknowledging that we're gathered upon the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and we thank them for their care of these lands and look forward to working together in partnership as we build this great city together. And as you can see, we have the three host nations flags here to commemorate the very central place that they hold in our decision-making here in Vancouver City Council. Also like to acknowledge my council colleagues that are here today. We have councillors Jean Swanson, Michael Wiebe, Pete Fry, and I thought I saw Councillor Rebecca Bly here somewhere. Okay. Don't see you, but I know you're here somewhere. And Janet Fraser, of course, is here from the school board. So thank you very much for attending. There may be other people that drift in while we're eating, so just keep your eyes open for them. So it's my honor to welcome you all here today and share in the history, reflections, and aspirations of the community gathered here today. And it's great to see so many friends and folks that we've had great conversations with. So nice to see you here. The festival today sends a powerful message that communities are stronger when we focus on our shared values that unite us. And the celebration of Eid is also an important opportunity to share the traditions of and faith of the Muslim community and to come together under the values of Islam that include generosity, compassion, and caring for others. So as we celebrate today, let's think about ways that we can engage in our communities, both here in Vancouver and internationally, to be of service to those who are fortunate enough we're able to help. The value of caring for others in our community is essential to building the strong, welcoming, and healthy neighborhoods that we all want to live in and wish for our children. And just to share a little story with you, this morning I was being interviewed by a member of a team that's studying community in Berlin. And so they'd come to interview us here, me to talk about what makes Vancouver so special. And I gave him a little example. We had fireworks, of course. I hope you've all been able to partake in that. And, we've had on our first night of fireworks, not a single police incident, not an arrest. And my wife and I are walking through the crowds last night away from the fireworks, and it was such a mixture of people, all happy, all celebrating, all together in a community that they all deeply care about. And so when I was explaining this to the researchers from Berlin, I said, this is what makes us Canadian. It's not so much our policies or institutions, it's the multicultural values that we all hold. So today, celebrating Eid is actually a celebration of all cultures. By celebrating one, we celebrate all, and I think that's really what makes my heart sing when I'm here today, which is such an honor, and hearing the fantastic recitations and the singing. I think this is what makes Canada Canada for me, and it's such an honor to be here sharing this with you, and also taking it to the broader community so we can celebrate each other. So it's really my honor today to celebrate with you, and thank you once again, and Eid Mubarak to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, for your presence and your thoughtful remarks. I would now like to invite Fazia Bhatia, who will provide us with some reflections on the significance of Eid al-Adha.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. On this festive and joyous occasion of Eid al-Adha, I would like to start by first wishing you all Eid Mubarak and extend warm greetings for a blessed festival. In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Hujarat, Surah 49, Ayah 13, Allah says, "O humankind, indeed we created you, male and female, and we made you diverse peoples and tribes so that you may come to know one another. Indeed, the noblest among you in the sight of Allah is the most pious. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing and all-aware." Today, we celebrate the unity that binds together all of the Abrahamic faiths as we reflect on the life of Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, who is referred to in the Holy Quran as Khalilullah, or friend of God. Eid al-Adha, or the festival of sacrifice, is observed by Muslims around the world in commemoration of one of the greatest trials of faith in the life of Prophet Abraham. And this example teaches us about sacrifice, about complete submission, about obedience, and lessons of detachment. When Allah called upon him to sacrifice his son Ismail, Prophet Abraham obeyed Allah's command with faith and trust and love for his Creator. Allah accepted the great sacrifice of Prophet Abraham and spared his son, replacing the little boy with a ram. In the narrative of Prophet Abraham and Prophet Ismail, the notion of trust in Allah is central. As we reflect today on their lives and their unconditional love, obedience, and submission to Allah, we remind ourselves of the inner spirit behind this act, this selfless act of symbolic sacrifice and love. Embedded in this story are lessons relating to what it means to be human. And there is a duality that plays out. These are lessons of human joys and pains in the wake of fulfillment and exile, tragedy and triumph, success and failure. So, what does the story of sacrifice teach us? It teaches us that our life is a precious gift from God. It teaches us that our life is given to us by God, and to Him we will one day return. Prophet Abraham's story teaches us to trust our Creator and to have faith in Him at all times. Through the remembrance of Prophet Abraham, who, as we know, is recognized in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Eid al-Adha celebrates the common humanity and ethical heritage shared by the al-Kitab, the people of the book. It reminds us of our shared destiny and shared responsibility to care for the world, to care for each other, selfless giving, to learn from one another, and to build into a future of continued unity and friendship. In the words of the poet Maulana Rumi, how can we be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder and help someone's soul heal? His Highness the Aga Khan also continues to inspire an outlook of shared heritage with the other great monotheistic traditions that follows in the teachings of Prophet Abraham. As he said in his baccalaureate address at Brown University on May 26, 1996, we have much to build with, a common Abrahamic monotheistic traditions, common ethical principles founded on shared human values, common problems of yesterday resolved together, common challenges of tomorrow that we can best face together. May Eid al-Adha be a source of inspiration and serve as an opportunity for us all to be united and to renew our collective commitment to help those that need it the most. Once again, Eid Mubarak to you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Fazia, for providing insight into the importance of this Eid. We are fortunate today in celebrating Eid al-Adha that we are joined by members of the Jewish community. Thank you for making the time to be with us today. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Etty Goldman, from the Center of Israel and Jewish Affairs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Etty Goldman, and I work for CIJA, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. CIJA is the advocacy agent of the Jewish Federations of Canada. We represent the perspectives of 150,000 Jewish Canadians through the local federations. We are here celebrating the festival observed by Muslims around the world, commemorating what was known as the greatest trial of faith in the life of our forefather Abraham. when God commanded Abraham to sacrifice his beloved son. In order to understand on a deeper level why this was considered the greatest and final test, first we have to understand who Abraham was. Abraham is known in the Jewish tradition for his kindness. Abraham had a tent in the middle of the desert, which was open on all four sides, his home always open to visitors, where travelers could come in for drink, for shade, for food. His home was an oasis in the desert for all in need. And in the Bible, there is a story where Abraham was receiving prophecy. He was in the middle of talking directly to God. As he was in the middle of conversation with God, he saw 3 travelers in the distance. And what does he do? Abraham tells God to wait. I have to go take care of my company. He says he'll be back. He leaves the presence of God in order to greet his visitors, offers them to wash up, prepares for them an entire feast, all while keeping God waiting. This seems puzzling, even if it's important to go and help those in need. Abraham was a wealthy man. He had servants who easily could have gone to greet his visitors and to prepare the feast while he finishes up a conversation with God. He did not deem it beneath himself to delegate the task to his servants. But is this respectful to leave the presence of God, the creator of the world, to welcome into your home lowly desert wanderers, idol worshippers? Our tradition teaches that Abraham knew that this is exactly what God wanted of him. Every person is created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. We are meant to emulate God, who is completely good and who created the world based on kindness. How do we emulate God? By treating others, no matter who they are, with kindness. Abraham understood that this is exactly what God wanted of him to do: take care of God's children, every one of whom are created in the image of God. And now we come to the al-Adha, to the sacrifice of his beloved son. Our Jewish tradition teaches us that this was in fact Avram's 10th and final test. It was the ultimate test of faith. Not only has Avram spent his life dedicated to helping others, he spent his life preaching to all who would hear against the idea of child sacrifice, something that was rampant in those days. This went against everything that Abraham stood for, against everything God told him until now about loving others, about emulating God through kindness. But if this is what God wanted him to do, he was not only willing to go through with it, but he wanted to do God's will. And once again, we see when Abraham prepared to go and sacrifice his son, it says, and he rose early in the morning. Abraham himself and not his servants went and saddled the donkey in order to prepare to travel. He left early in the morning, not pushing off to later what could have been his son's final day, in order to do the will of God. And finally, with his son bound on the altar, the knife clutched in his hand, at that moment, when Abraham was about to slaughter his son, God sent an angel calling Abraham, Abraham, telling him to stop. It was at that moment that God saw clearly, without a doubt, that Abraham was willing to do anything that God told him to do. And at that moment is when God stopped him. Because although Abraham did not realize it as he was preparing to sacrifice his son, this was not something that God wanted. It was never meant in God's eyes that Abraham should go through with the act. Rather, the test was to see if his devotion extended even to the point of Abraham going against his very nature, against everything that he stood for until that moment, sacrifice his child if that was the will of God. We are in a room here today of people who care deeply about God, about our respective cultures and our religions. Abraham dedicated his life to caring for every human being, regardless of who they were. Even idol-worshiping, godless people were also people that deserved his help, as they were all created in the image of God. Something that is universal in all of our religions is that God wants us to treat others with respect and kindness, as each one of us in this room also are created in the image of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Etty, for reminding us of the noble character possessed by Abraham. We are also fortunate today to have representation from Vancouver's Christian communities. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Erwin Fung, from the Catholic Archdiocese of Vancouver.
It It is certainly a pleasure to be here on this wonderful occasion and to bring greetings on behalf of the Christian community. The Festival of Sacrifice, celebrated by the Muslim community around the world, links the Abrahamic traditions together. We are privileged to be able to come together in a spirit of charity, where many parts of the world still suffer through war and conflict. Our coming together today is a testament that the work of peace continues and is possible, and that love is the only way forward together. The Festival of Sacrifice is in some way a conflicted image. Even in the Christian tradition, explaining the story of the sacrifice made by Abraham is not usually the easiest to do. I think we can perhaps be guided, however, by the very name of this festival, that which is referred to as sacrifice. Sacrifice is a concept that is central to the Christian tradition. As many of you are already aware of the Christian belief that the death of Jesus is seen as an offering of life given to all. Abraham sacrifices his son and so is rewarded. This is also manifested in the book of Genesis. The story of Abraham seems to compass the Abrahamic traditions to an overarching realization, at least as how I see it, that love and trust require sacrifice. Whenever we see a mother and a father working hard to provide food for the family table, whenever we see the dedication of teachers, doctors, ministers, counselors, who listen patiently to those who are in need, whenever our friends remind us that they are always there for us, even when it might seem inconvenient for them, we see a little bit of sacrificial love in that. I myself have been very blessed with many people, and I'm sure when you go home tonight and in the spirit of gratitude, think about the many blessings you have been given, you might be able to see sacrifices that have been made for you as well. I think that could also be a part of what we celebrate today. There are sure signs that the story of Abraham's sacrifice still guides those who ask how they can love their neighbors, an instruction present in all of our traditions. Again, in the book of Genesis, the story of the sacrifice closes with a note that Abraham therefore calls that place, "The Lord will provide." And as it is said to this day, "On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." I am sure that the merciful and compassionate God will provide to us who work for the common good the fruits of peace and justice, that we sacrifice much of our time in the spirit of love of God and one another. I thank you for your attendance today, and I wish you a blessed festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Erwin, for reminding us that there is beauty in sacrifice. It is now my pleasure to call upon Samir Munji, President of the Ismaili Council for BC, to provide us with his closing remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mayor Kennedy Stewart, City Councilors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the Ismaili Council for British Columbia and the Shia Imami Ismaili community, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you and your families a very warm Eid Mubarak. I would like to also extend our heartfelt gratitude to His Worship for hosting us here for today's event. We know how valuable the Mayor's time is and are grateful to have your presence and also to have heard your remarks here at the event today. I would also like to thank the City Councilors and staff for all of their efforts and generous support in preparing for today's event. While the nuances of this tradition differ across various religious communities, at its core, Eid al-Adha celebrates our common humanity and ethical heritage shared by the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian faiths. It is a tradition in which the themes of sacrifice and the respect and love for the divine find profound resonance among diverse societies across the globe. I would like to take a moment to personally thank Eddie Goldman and Erwin Fung for being here with us today. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our brothers and sisters from the Azara Center for their support and collaboration in the organization of today's event. The fact that together we celebrate in unity and harmony makes this an extra happy occasion. I'd also, on behalf of all of us, like to thank our MC, Nabila. I'd like to thank Soraya for the wonderful rendition of O Canada, and Fauzia for sharing with us some thoughts and reflections on the significance of Eid al-Adha. We live in challenging and uncertain times. In a world where difference can very easily spark discord, the occasion of Eid al-Adha serves as a timely reminder that the bonds which bind us together are much stronger than the forces which threaten to divide. As His Highness the Aga Khan commented, quote, "The world we seek is not a world where difference is erased, but where difference can be a powerful force for good, helping us to fashion a new sense of cooperation and coherence, and to build together a better life for all," end of quote. In this endeavor, the Canadian experience stands as a beacon of hope to countries around the world. As we gather in this spirit, let us reach out and build bridges, not barriers. Let us work to reaffirm our commitment to each other, to work with each other to better the societies, communities, and countries in which we live, and to work ultimately towards the betterment of humanity. This has been a truly wonderful gathering. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. I also want to thank all of the volunteers who worked tirelessly to make today a successful event. Thank you, and Eid Mubarak.
Thank you, President Manji, for that very heartfelt closing. Thank you all for joining us today for this celebration of Eid al-Adha. I would like to once again wish each and every one of you Eid Mubarak. May I ask that those that presented today please stay behind for a photograph? Otherwise, thank you and have a wonderful day.